I told my mother-in-law it's not my fault she married a deadbeat and she has to figure it out. My mother-in-law Linda has been calling me non-stop for the past 3 weeks, asking for money. Not my husband Jake, mind you. Me, because apparently I'm the one with a stable job and good head on my shoulders. It all started when her husband Bob got fired from his job at the warehouse for showing up drunk again. This was his 4th job in 2 years, and Linda was panicking because they were already behind on rent and car payments. The first time she called, I felt bad for her. I really did. Linda's always been nice to me, and Bob's drinking has been getting worse since I've known them. So when she asked if we could loan them $800 for rent, I talked to Jake and we agreed to help. But then 2 weeks later, she called again. This time they needed $600 for groceries and utilities. Then it was $400 for Bob's car payment because he needed the car to look for work. Each time she'd cry on the phone about how embarrassed she was and how she'd pay us back as soon as Bob got another job. Jake felt terrible seeing his mom struggle, so we kept helping. But I started noticing things that didn't add up. Like when we went over for dinner last Sunday, their fridge was full of expensive beer, and Bob was smoking a pack habit that costs more than their grocery bill. Meanwhile, Jake and I had been eating ramen and skipping our date nights to help them out. We'd already given them over $2,000 in 6 weeks. The breaking point came Tuesday night when Linda called sobbing. Bob had spent their grocery money at the casino and they had nothing to eat. She begged me to bring them $100 for food, saying the kids would go hungry otherwise. I was confused because Linda and Bob don't have kids at home. Their youngest moved out 3 years ago. When I asked what she meant, she got all flustered and said she meant they would go hungry. That's when it clicked. Linda wasn't just enabling Bob's drinking and gambling. She was lying to manipulate us into giving them money. I told her we couldn't help this time and hung up. An hour later, she showed up at our apartment crying and banging on the door. She was practically hysterical, saying we were heartless and that family should help family. She kept going on about how Bob was sick and needed support, not judgment. I opened the door and let her in, thinking maybe we could have an honest conversation. But Linda immediately started guilting me about how much money Jake and I spent on frivolous things like our gym membership and Netflix subscription. She said, if we really cared about family, we'd cancel those and help Bob get back on his feet. She even suggested I could pick up a second job since I was young and energetic. That's when I absolutely lost it. I looked her straight in the eye and said, Linda, it's not my fault you married a deadbeat who drinks away your rent money and gambles away your food budget. Jake and I have our own bills and our own future to worry about. Her mouth just dropped open. She started stuttering about how Bob wasn't always like this, and how marriage meant standing by your partner through thick and thin. I told her standing by someone doesn't mean enabling their addiction while dragging down everyone around you. I said we'd already given them enough money to cover 3 months of rent and groceries, and all it did was fund Bob's next bender. Linda got furious and started yelling about how I was turning her son against his own father. She said I was selfish and didn't understand what real love looked like. I stayed calm and told her that real love would be getting Bob into rehab, not calling us every week begging for money to clean up his messes. I said she needed to figure out her own problems instead of expecting us to bankroll Bob's addictions. She stormed out, slamming our door so hard the neighbor's dog started barking. Jake came home 20 minutes later to find me stress cleaning our entire kitchen. When I told him what happened, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said he was proud of me for finally saying what he'd been thinking, but couldn't bring himself to tell his mom. Linda didn't call us for 2 weeks. When she finally did, it was to tell us she'd kicked Bob out and filed for divorce. She'd gotten a job at the grocery store and was moving into a small apartment she could actually afford. She apologized for putting us in the middle of her marriage problems and said she realized we'd been enabling the situation just as much as she had. Bob's been living in his brother's garage and still hasn't found work, but that's not our